We're recording.
Awesome. All right. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome. I am very excited about this first part of a three-part webinar series with Dr. Mark Murphy from Preoutlining. And we are going to be showing you guys how to systematize your approach to dental sleep medicine. That's what we're focusing on today. This three-part series is about taking your dental sleep medicine practice to the next level in 2022. And we added for real this time because it seems like every single time you get a little momentum, you get excited about moving forward with dental sleep medicine, you attend another meeting, another CE course, and you're pumped up, and then you lose that momentum. So we're gonna teach you over this three-part series how to generate that momentum and how to keep that momentum going. So Mark, you want to take it away?
I would love to take it away. Thanks, Todd. That's a great introduction. I appreciate it. So yeah, I like the way you said that. Generating momentum and then keeping the momentum, because one of the issues we have is we take these sleep courses and we get all excited about stuff, and then we come back to our practices and everyday dentistry gets in the way, and life gets in the way, and billing gets in the way, and testing gets in the way, and just a myriad of different things get in the way. And when we see those challenges, we have a choice. We have a choice to either bear down and overcome those challenges, or we roll over, play dead, and go back to doing dentistry every day. Nothing wrong with the latter. There's nothing wrong with that choice. But I would hate to think that people make that choice because those barriers seem like too high to scale, because they're not. The truth is, there are some ways of systematizing your practice. That's what we're going to talk about these next 3 times. Systematizing how you get patients, systematizing how you move them through the funnel. And then I'm really not going to talk very much about the clinical aspects. So even though I work for Preoutlining, so you're not going to hear a lot of Preoutlining advertisements or anything. But we're going to talk about how do you get patients, how do you process patients, how do you move patients through. And all of that is about having systems. Because if you don't have 2 things in your practice, rock solid, you can't do anything. You can't do a filling, you can't do a crown, you can't do dental sleep. That you got to have the right team, you got to have the right people in place. They got to have the right seats on the bus. And then you have to have systems for doing the things that you plan to do. And you have those systems for dentistry. And when you turn and you say, I'm going to do dental sleep medicine, it's different and it requires different kinds of systems. And if you try to take systems from here and apply them over here, you'll be very frustrated. So it requires a different mindset. It requires a different paradigm. It requires different thinking. And my goal tonight is to really, I guess it's a little self-serving. Tonight, I want to make you want to come back for the next 2 in the series. Because tonight I want to tell you what I'm going to tell you, and I'll tell you some of it. But the real answers, the real gems that you'll take away will be in the next 2. But without tonight, the next 2 don't make sense. If I just tell you what to do, you'll be back to the same problems you had. How do I pick and choose how to put these different parts of the puzzle together, and they're just not going to fit. So tonight I'm going to talk about systemizing your dental sleep medicine practice. And tonight we're going to mostly talk about the 4-box system, a way of thinking about 4 different boxes that you and the patients move through. I put my email down there, and my email will be on the last slide as well. Please do not hesitate. I'm a Dental Sleep Profits customer right now. And I'm using their guidance and using their marketing, and we're getting patients from that and customers and patients that are saying yes and all kinds of wonderful things. But I want you to know that I'm an additional resource like Todd is, or Hazel is, or the rest of their team, to say, when you run into some of these barriers and you say, how do I get across this barrier? How do I cross this chasm? How do I climb this hill? That's what we're all here for. Whether it's Todd, whether it's me, whether it's Kim, whether it's Hazel, we're all here to help you be more successful. Because, by the way, if you're more successful, you'll tell your friends about Todd. You'll tell your friends about Dental Sleep Profits. If you're more successful, you might choose to use more of our devices. So really, it's a very self-serving thing for us as well. If you're more successful, you win more. And if you win more, you're probably going to use more of our stuff. So the pre-outline to tonight's programming is, why would we talk about systems? And then I want to tell you a little bit my systemized approach, and then why practices often fail. And I want to move quickly in parts and slow in other parts, because you'll see why. You'll see that there's some thoughts that we have to inculcate into our tissues, that we have to process, that we have to think about a little bit. But why systems? Systems are important. Well, systems are very important because in healthcare, we have two different approaches to healthcare for systems. We have a medical system and we have a dental system. And we use terms that flip between the two systems, but in reality, they should not. We talk about dental insurance. There's no such thing as dental insurance. If you look up the word insurance in the dictionary, it says when a third party takes the risk for a catastrophic loss. And there's nothing catastrophic about $1,200 or $1,500 in coverage. Also, most of your patients, most of my patients, medical deductibles for their medical insurance is higher than the total coverage they have on an annual basis for dental insurance. So we really have this conundrum, don't we, that we use the term insurance when in reality we have a maintenance plan in dentistry that covers cleanings, an occasional filling, a crown, whatever you might need. I joke, it's a crown and 2 cleaning club per year. And then in medicine, we have this huge deductible we have to get past, and then we get this catastrophic coverage for the 10 to 12 to 15 to 20 to $50,000, the $100,000, hospitalization and surgery. Medicine, because they're so huge, has studied the patient process, the patient pathway, how patients make decisions, and how we can better provide healthcare to them. Now, the problem with the healthcare system is it's broken. It's definitely broken. Most physicians, not neurosurgeons, not orthopods, not heart surgeons, cardiovascular people, but primary care, internal medicine, sleep physicians, they're grossly underpaid. We make more money as a dentist than they do as sleep physicians. So the system's broken because they've got to figure out how do we get more people through, how do we process more people through. And if you're working with sleep physicians, you find out that they don't have much time to spend with their patients. And so the system, pardon?
Or you.
Or me, correct. High five. Absolutely right, Ty. Absolutely right. They don't have any time for the patients or us. So the system's broken. The system is broken in dentistry on the reimbursement side because we're getting lower and lower reimbursements. That's a different issue. And more people are leaving the PPO and insurance reimbursement model and going fee for service. That's encouraging. That's great. That's how I always practice. Now I participate with every dental insurance or every medical insurance I can, even though I participated with no dental insurance. It's a totally different world because insurance is your friend in medicine, but it's the kind of the enemy in dentistry. So the system's broken from how we deliver healthcare in medicine. It's not broken in dentistry. In dentistry, we have relationships with people. We can talk to people. We can spend time doing an exam. We get to know our patients. Now I'm on the dental sleep medicine side. I have to look 3 or 4 or 5 minutes before the patient comes in to see who they are, what we're doing, what we did last time, because I don't remember them. I don't remember them in the way that I did my dental patients. Now you might, because you might be seeing dental patients who become your sleep patients. That's great. But as we're going to talk next time, you run out of those. And when you run out of those, you got to figure out, where are my other patients going to come from? When I quit screening my existing patient population and you get to 200 or 300 or 400 patients through, then you're going to need a marketing program. You're going to need an acquisition plan or something to get more patients. So the system's broken. So why do we need systems? Well, we need systems to help us guide ourselves and our team towards, the promised land, whatever that is. The promised land is dental sleep medicine compensates us about 5.5 times per hour what dentistry does. Now, let me repeat that slowly. Dental sleep medicine compensates us about 5.5 times what dentistry does per hour. So even if we just add a little bit of dental sleep medicine to our practices, it has a huge impact on the top and the bottom line of our practices. It's one of the most profitable things we could do in anything we do. Systems help us organize things. If I were to ask you to memorize this list and I gave you 30 seconds, I just sat here quietly and counted it down and I said, if you memorize this list perfectly in 30 seconds, I'll give you $100. And if you don't, you give me $100. Very few people would take that bet. But if I asked you to memorize this list, which are the same words, organized, systematized into groups, into functionality, into common themes, it becomes significantly easier. Dental sleep medicine is super easy if you have systems. It is crazy hard, drive you nuts, shoot yourself with a dart gun or something on the side of the head if you don't have systems in place. It's like trying to memorize that first list and trying to figure out what you're going to do and who you're going to do. I had a couple of calls today that were bizarre. With I spend a great deal of my time with persomnists talking to new doctors into sleep and doctors that are doing sleep and want to do more, helping them grow their practices or figure out their first cases. And some of the questions I get, some of the conversations I have are really surprising for people that have had, dental sleep medicine education. But I always try to focus it back on, how do we not just have this conversation today and then have it again in 3 months and 6 more months and 9 more months? How do I teach that person to solve this problem with tools and solutions in a way that we never have to have this conversation again, that the next time we talk about a problem, it's at a higher level. And so what I want you to be able to do tonight is to be able to systematize things in your practice and see things as systems so that you can organize them in a different way. I'm going to have 2 objectives tonight. 2 objectives are to give you some tools and to give you some solutions. The tools are things that will help you grow your dental sleep medicine practice. They deliver, functionality. They combine features to help get through things, but they provide solutions to common issues. You have a screw or you have a nail and you want to drive it into the piece of wood and you need a tool to be able to do that. But the solution might be, where do I put the screw? Where do I put the nail into that piece of wood to hold it the right way to do the right kind of thing? I always remember the story about the person with the squeaky stairs and hires a carpenter to come over and fix the squeaky stairs. And he walks up and down the stairs 2 times, comes around behind the stairs, drives one nail into a board, and it fixes it in a different orientation than it was with his nail, and charges the person 65 or 75 bucks, whatever it is. And the person looks at the thing and says, "Oh my God, you charged me 65 bucks for one nail?" I said, "No, I charge you $1 for the nail and $64 for knowing where to put it." See, the difference is not having a hammer and having a nail, it's knowing where to put the nail and when to use the hammer, when to use the screwdriver, when to use this different tool. And that's how I want you to think about dental sleep medicine. Is the clinical part is pretty easy, but the behavioral part, the communication part, the training part, the team development part, all of that is where the challenges arise. So the sleep medicine part, the clinical part, is easy. Now, I said there's 2 objectives for tonight, but I lied. There's really 3. The third one is leadership. Leadership is fuzzy for us in dentistry because we are de facto leaders of our practices, whether we want to be or not, because we run a $800 or $1 million business or $1.5 million or whatever you're doing in your dental practice, and that's great. And that's a daunting task. That's running a great small business, but we didn't have any leadership training. We didn't have any business training. We had all kinds of training in working in a 4-inch sphere to fix little things under a microscope, and that's great. But we didn't have any training in how to lead a team to a place, how to motivate a team, inspire a team, how to reward a team, how to develop a team, how to educate them. And so this leadership quotient is important because we're really good in dentistry at looking at things and finding things wrong or finding things right. And we're not usually as strong at leading people to a happier place, to a place where we feel more fulfilled, maybe doing dental sleep medicine. I like to think that leadership is different than management. Management is making sure that we cross the T's and dot the I's and do all the things right. Management is about doing things right. But leadership is about doing the right things. And that's what's really important in dental sleep medicine. We have to have strong leadership skills. There was an article recently about why dentists fail at dental sleep medicine. It talked about these 6 items. There were 7, but I took one of them and combined it with another. So there's 6 items left. Most dentists fail at dental sleep medicine because they don't have a sleep champion. The team doesn't know what to do. There's no buy-in from the team. They don't screen on a regular basis. Now drop down after a gap to medical billing issues and not getting along with physicians really well. The top 4 are all leadership issues. Not having a sleep champion, not having the team know where we're going, why we're going there, not having buy-in, not making sure that we've got a good reason to screen all of our patients. That's leadership. if we're all rowing really hard, but we don't know where we're going, that's not good. Instead, it's my job as a leader to inspire my team to see this preferred place where we're doing dental sleep medicine. We're treating patients for obstructive sleep apnea, and it's very rewarding emotionally. We see patients getting healthier, and that's great. And then, oh, by the way, as a result of doing those two really good things, we make more money. See, money isn't the goal. Money is the result of trying to achieve the goals of helping more patients have better health and of us doing things that are more rewarding emotionally. And if we do those things, by the way, at 5 or 5.5 times the rate that we normally do dentistry, it's rewarding financially as well. And if you argue you're not motivated by the money, I'm okay with that, because maybe you're motivated by time. And so if you produce 5 times per hour, just a few times a week, you can maybe take a half day off. You can maybe take 2 days off a month. You can maybe take off 12 days a year. You can make more of your kids' soccer games. So see, it's not about money. It's about having a choice of how we want to spend our time. So leadership.
This is actually something that's very difficult for a lot of sleep dentists to swallow, to recognize, well, the reason dental sleep medicine was not successful for you was because of you. The buck stops there, really. And we have found that the most successful people in dental sleep medicine are the ones that take responsibility for that.
100%.
It's very interesting that when they own it, like, hey, it's not my staff's fault that they're not screening. It's my fault. When they own that, that's when things completely shift.
Todd, you could not have said it better, because the challenge is looking in the mirror and seeing that I am the problem. And excuse us, you get all the outs you want, because we didn't go to be a better leader school. We didn't go to be a great manager school. We went to dental school. If you think about it, logically, if you wanted to run $1 million business, you'd go to business school. And then if somebody said to you, what kind of business do you want to run? And you said, well, I want to run a dental practice. You say, okay, that's good. We'll open a dental office. What role do you want to have in that dental office? You want to be the manager? You want to be I want to be a dentist. Oh, so you want to be a dentist and you want to run that business. Yeah. Okay. So you need an MBA and a dental degree. Well, that's not how it works. We get a dental degree. So we do get a pass at being bad leaders and bad managers and bad motivators, bad inspirers, because we weren't trained to do that. In fact, most of us got beat up in dental school. So now, and the good news is, in dentistry, there's enough structure, there's enough systems, structure around to muddle through the system. And oh, by the way, we make 170 or 80 or $90,000 a year as a dentist, as an income. High five, that's great. It's a wonderful income. And reimbursements are going down, and we hassle with insurance, and totally get that. There's heartaches, but we do well. We do better than sleep physicians. We do better than primary care, better than internal medicine, all good. But dental sleep medicine requires us to shift our thinking from dentistry to medicine. And it involves us leading our team to this, greener pasture where things are more fun, or things are more inspiring, or things are more rewarding emotionally and financially. And that's a different skill set. And if we say we took a class, we're going to screen, and then we come back and we don't lead our team towards better screening, we don't lead our team towards doing dental sleep medicine, then you're absolutely right. That's a great point. Thank you for that. But I love this definition of leadership. It's from a friend of mine, Rich Green, who I used to teach with down at the Pankey Institute. He used to say that there's a lot of great definitions of leadership, but he liked the one that said the willingness and ability to influence behavior. First your own, then others, toward a preferred future. Then he paused and said, even when the going gets tough, even in the face of resistance. So isn't that interesting, to first influence your own behavior, then your team's in the direction you want to go, even when there's wind in your face. And I always think of sailing. You take a sailboat out, and I remember the first time I've been married to my high school sweetheart for 43 years, so it's been a great run. But before I married her, I dated her girlfriend, and their family were sailors. And I remember the first time I was going out with him, I was probably 14 or 15. I'm dating this girl and we're going sailing. And I'm thinking to myself, this is interesting. I don't know how this works, but I think we're going to get in the boat and they're going to put up these sails. We're going to go wherever the wind takes us. And I'm like, how do we get back? And what if the wind is blowing at us and we want to go out there into the lake? I'm like, how does this sailing thing work? I didn't realize that you could trim your sails a certain way and you could put a centerboard or keel down and you could tack and go back and forth into the wind. You could go directly into the wind by running on an angle. Now you don't go in a straight line like you do when the wind's behind you, but see, it's not about which way the wind is blowing. It's how you set your sails. And that's what our job is as leaders, is to set our sails. So here's our outline for tonight now, because it's 20 minutes in and we should be talking about what we're going to be talking about tonight and setting the stage for the next two. And that's talking about the 4-box component structure that I use when I'm teaching dental sleep medicine. The box that's on treatment and clinical applications, we're not going to spend much time on. We're going to spend a lot of time on how we market, how we acquire customers, and we're going to spend a lot of time on how we move those customers from interest to awareness and interest to trusting us, to saying yes to a test, to saying yes to treatment, because we've got to move those patients that a company like Dental Profits gets you to. We've got to be able to move those patients through the funnel. And whether we want to talk about sales funnels or not, that's what it is. It's a sales funnel. We use a sales funnel when we're talking to a patient about crown and bridge or an implant, or they need a 4-month, a 3-month cleaning and scaling and root planing. It's the same thing. We have to walk them up this learning ladder. So we'll talk about that next time. But we also want to talk about understanding choice. We want to talk about how we assemble the parts and the puzzle pieces in these boxes. So here's these boxes. I think of this first box as an acquisition box. Where and how do we get our customers? How do we get our sleep patients? Well, for most practices, it's their own patient population. But that's somewhat of a finite number. It's not totally finite, because clearly if I had 2,000 patients and 20 or 25% of them, 400 or 500 were, had obstructive sleep apnea, and 90% of them or 80% of them hadn't been treated, I got 300 or 400 patients to treat. And if I did 1 a week, it'd take me 4 years or 3 years. 2 a week, it'd take me a year and a half. So, but you get the picture. At some time, I'm going to run out of patients to treat within my own practice. So I'll have new patients coming in. So if I'm getting 10 or 20 new patients a month, that's great. So that's 2 or 3 or 4 of those patients have sleep apnea. So there'll be a trickle after that first thing. So how well I screen, we'll talk about that. And what I do with my new patients coming in, how well I screen them as new patients, their health history, I'll talk about that. But eventually you run out of that force of nature that's coming in for you to be able to treat. So at some point, you've got to either really develop strong relationships with local physicians, or begin to nudge people that are living around you to come see you for dental sleep medicine. And whether that's Facebook ads, social media, Google AdWords, all the different kind of things that we think about in the world that will help those patients make a decision. We know that there's 1 billion people worldwide, maybe 40 or 50 million people in the United States. And if you live anywhere like I live in a suburb of Detroit called Rochester Hills. There's about 70,000 people. And if 20% of them, that'd be 14,000, have obstructive sleep apnea, maybe a little more. There aren't enough dentists doing dental sleep medicine in this area, or physicians doing dental sleep medicine. We're treating about 10 or 15, maybe 20% of those people, 20% of the 14,000. And that's putting the numbers high. That means there's 80%. Still 10,000 patients. So how do we reach out to those 10,000 patients who might be a patient without a dentist or a patient in another dental practice? Doesn't matter. How do we reach out to some of those patients who aren't being treated for obstructive sleep apnea, but have obstructive sleep apnea, sleep-related breathing disorders? So we've got to think about this screening and marketing, and how do we acquire patients? Then we've got to get them tested. You see, because in every state, we cannot interpret and read a test. We cannot write a prescription for an oral appliance I can order tests in all but about 5 or 6 states. And we could talk about that. It's not important for this kind of conversation, but if you're in some of those states, it is. If you're in Michigan, I can write an order for a test. That's good. Not for Medicare. I've got to still have a physician on board for that. So we do a telemedicine visit for that with one of the sleep testing companies. But I've got to get that patient tested. So I have to first think about, how do I get a patient screened or into my office? Then how do I move them into a test? And then a certain percentage of them, if I've done a good job screening, stop bang, Epworth sleepiness scale, all that kind of stuff, I'll have a high percentage of my test patients have sleep apnea. So I could watch a funnel, just like a sales funnel. I don't want us to think salesy, but it is kind of salesy. I'm going to screen my patients, move them into a test, and some of them are going to come out of the test and say, I have sleep apnea. So give me 100 patients that I screen positively for sleep apnea. I'm probably going to be right 85 or 90% of the time. And if I can move 90% of the 90% or 80% of the total 100 into a test, probably 75 or 80% of those, or 60 or 70, come out the other side, the positive test result. And at least 65, 75% of those could have neural appliance. So you can see how the math is working. There's 100 patients that I screen that I think need a test. 90 of them need a test. 80 of them come out the other side with a test. 60 of them could be treated with a neural appliance. And so I'm working this math through this funnel to say, great, I started with 100 patients. Now I get 50 or 60 that need a neural appliance. And the better I am at closing those patients into a neural appliance, the more likely I got to worry about the billing and documentation at the other end, so that my team can get paid financially, because the warm fuzzies of helping people sleep better is great. But if you call your team in on a Friday and you say, hey, team, we did a great job this week, and they say, where's our paycheck? And you say, bring it in, we're going to do a group hug. And all they get is a group hug on Friday. That's only going to last about 2 or 3 weeks, a month if you're really super. We got to get paid. I got to pay my rent. I got to pay my bills. And I got to tell you, this dental sleep medicine it's crazy emotionally rewarding, and it's crazy financially rewarding. So we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about treatment. We're not going to spend a lot of time talking about billing and documentation. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about, next time, how we acquire those patients, and then how we move them through the funnel in the final meeting. Today, we're going to finish looking at this overview so that we understand how we systematize this, because it's terrible for me to say, get some patients, test them, treat them, bill them, have a nice day. There you go. That's dental sleep medicine. That's if you sign up for a lot of courses, the course director, the speaker, the lecturer will tell you, here's what I do. Maybe they'll give you a couple of alternatives, but they hardly ever say there's 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 choices in these different boxes. And you have to figure out what are the 1 or 2 or maybe 3, but not 6 or 7 different pathways through these boxes that you have to choose so that you can create an effective, predictable, repeatable, manageable, measurable system for moving patients through your funnel.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of dentists. Have you ever heard of that phrase, paralysis by analysis?
Absolutely, 100 times.
It happens with specifically like in some capacity in every single one of these categories that we're looking at right now. In the testing, do I buy a used Aries unit, or do I use Itamar and do their WatchPat One Direct program? With treatment, do I go Prosomnus? Do I go this? Do Panthera?
Absolutely.
And then the billing side, it's like, do I try and do it in-house? Do I
just do cash? Do I pay for a billing system? All those different options.
There's so many considerations, and you're just, I think the secret sauce is choose and then course correct.
Thank you for that course correct comment, because Todd, you're right. Choose wisely, choose by maybe following a guru, somebody that you heard lecture. You might have heard Jameson Spencer, you might have heard Steve Karstensen, you might have heard John Carollo, Mark Murphy, doesn't matter, whoever you heard. Great, I like the way they do it. I'm going to try that. That was uncomfortable for me. Well, then course correct.
Yeah.
And go back into that box that we talked about and pick something different out of that box than what you picked originally. your example of the different types of tests is so good, because I'll have doctors who have 3 or 4 or 5 different tests on their desk, but they use an outsourcing capability. I'm like, well, why'd you buy these tests? Well, so which system did you choose? They didn't choose. Instead, they sat there and they got sold this and sold that and sold that and sold this. And they signed up for this and signed up for that. And then they go, this dental sleep medicine it's not making any sense to me. I can never figure out, my patients don't want to do this. Well, of course not, because you don't have a systemized approach to it. I knew in the beginning when I did my first dental sleep appliance 35 years ago, teaching with Keith Thornton out at the Pankey Institute. So I've been around sleep a long time, but I kind of left it for a while and was doing just TMD. And then I went back to sleep probably in like 2012, 13. And when I did, so I guess that's coming up on about 10 years. So when I did, I thought, man, this has got to be easy. And I've got to fit this into my life, because I have other things I have to be doing, not dentistry. I teach, I lecture, I do research, I work for Posomnis, I do webinars for you and things like this. So I have a lot of stuff going on. So I have to have a very organized and systematized approach. And so does a dentist, because they have a dental practice 3.5 or 4.5 days a week. And this dental sleep medicine box has these different boxes in it, but this dental sleep medicine box is part of their week. It's not their life. Now, it's different if that's all they do. It's different if they're Kent Smith or somebody like that who does dental sleep medicine full time, has multiple locations, does hundreds of devices, a month. It's crazy what they do. Work with all these different physicians. That's a different world. But for most of us, it's figuring out how to fit this box called dental sleep medicine into everything else we do that's dentistry. Now, from the patient's perspective, remember, this was our perspective. From the patient's perspective, it's about dancing, bobbing, and weaving and figuring things out with them, because patients are on the other side. We're building a system to help move the patient through a funnel, but the patient has a perspective that's different than ours. We're going to talk a great deal about that in the third program. We're going to talk about the research that medicine has done on how patients make decisions, what questions they're really asking in their mind, even though they don't say them, what answers they want to hear to questions they haven't even asked. You're going to have some insight into that, so that you'll know how to have those kinds of conversations with patients in advance, and how to set up the answer so that you come across as the expert, you come across as the person they want to work with to get to that solution. So it's always about guiding the patient along that pathway. When you talk about screening, when you talk about marketing, when we get together next time, we'll take this particular slide and we'll break it down into the kinds of things we can do inside our practice and outside our practice. And so if I'm a dentist and I'm practicing general dentistry and I've added sleep as a mix, just like I would have added implants or Invisalign or something else like that, I need to have an internal marketing plan. Now, that's good, because I have 1,500, 2,000, maybe 2,500 patients, whatever your math is. And many of those patients have a need for Invisalign, or a need for implants in edentulous spaces, or a need for oral appliance or CPAP therapy for obstructive sleep apnea. And figuring out a way to connect to those patients from an internal marketing standpoint is critical. And so all the different pieces and parts of the puzzle that we might want to have while we're doing internal marketing, we'll talk about. But that's a finite mass, as we said. And so eventually I have to go outside that patient group. So I'm going to need help. I'm going to need a partner, because most of us are not very good. And if you are very good at external marketing, you're probably not going to be sitting in a webinar like this trying to figure out how I get better at external marketing. Instead, you're going to do what I do, or some of my friends do, and we pay somebody like Todd and Hazel to go out there and figure out how do we generate some of these leads of patients who are out there in my community who need help with obstructive sleep apnea, who aren't being treated. And they can filter those people out. They can do so many different things from an external marketing standpoint. You could choose to go on TV. A friend of mine, Guy Yatros, down in Bradenton, Florida, has the cutest commercial. He accidentally knocked a CPAP off a table while he was talking about oral appliance therapy versus CPAP. And the person that was filming the commercial for him on local cable TV said, "Oh, that was great." And so he went back and they did it in such a way that he's talking about it. Oops, sorry, knocking the rubbish. Well, that's not such a bad thing anyhow. Nobody wears those anyhow. And it was really interesting to listen to him. But it's a TV commercial. Now, it's not my cup of tea. Okay. I don't want to be on my local, actually, I probably do want to be on my local TV, but not for doing a commercial for obstructive sleep apnea or radio. We've had people with success with radio. We've tried print ads and they sucked, but maybe there's somebody else who could tell me a better way to doing print ads. There's also a way that we can approach our local physicians. And it's not about going to them and saying, hey, I'm a dental sleep medicine specialist. I'm a qualified dentist by the ADSM. I'm board certified from the ADSM or the ABSA or something like that, or ASBA. No, it's about going to that sleep physician and working with them in a way that answers the question that they have, which is what's in it for them. Think about that. When we go there, we want
so important there.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, when we go there, we want referrals, but really, if we go there asking for referrals, they're going to turn a deaf ear. But if we go there with the idea of what's in it for them, Dale Carnegie said, seek first to understand. Oh no, that was Covey. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Covey said, help other people get what they want, and they'll help you get what you want. Something like it. But same sort of concept. If I can help the sleep physician feel like they're going to get busier because I'm going to send them some referrals, they just might think about me when they have a patient.
That's actually one of the really big benefits of these first, being very good at these first three: internal, external marketing, all of those. Because when you go to the physician to gain those gain them as a referral source, you're able to leverage the profit potential that you can send them, because they really don't care how educated you are. No. They don't care what certification.
Fortunately, they don't.
Yeah. So really, when you go into that, and we have found, and we can probably talk about this when we break this down, but when you have your administrative staff communicate with the administrative staff, say, hey, we got 100 people a month that we need to refer to a pulmonologist that we can trust. Is that a conversation you would like to have with us? Completely changes the conversation. Instead, it's like, hey, can I buy you lunch and talk to you about why oral appliance therapy can efficacy this, efficacy that? It's just not as effective as having something to offer.
Totally
going
right.
Into that conversation.
It's funny. I remember walking with my daughter. You know Kimmy really well. So Kim works for me. She runs my sleep practice, and so we walk into a physician's office, and we've got this little thing we drop off. We'll talk about next time. And we're asking for some of their business cards because we need an office to refer patients to. They give us a whole box of cards, like 500 or 1,000. I don't know how many's in. And we said, what information do you need when we're sending them over? They've got a form they wanted us to fill out and fax over. Happy to do that. And they, just a minute, let me get the doctor for you. So now she goes in the back and she gets the doctor, and it turns out that's her husband. And he comes out, we sit down, we're talking. I've got demo models. I can talk about prosomnus, what we do. So it was. But if I came in there and said, hey, gimme, I'm not going anywhere.
I don't have time for you.
Totally not. Absolutely right. The other thing we'll talk about next time when we run through this is we'll talk about other dentist referral. I have to be very careful in limiting my practice because I have a rather large role with prosomnus. And so I do a lot of education, clinical trials, studies for them, work with a lot of doctors that need help. And so that takes up much of my time. So I get 1 day a week that I get to go practice dental sleep medicine. But I don't have a practice. So I don't get to do the screening of my existing patients. I have no patients. I have no practice. I sold that years ago. So I need patients from my local physicians. But I also have a community of dentists here in Rochester Hills, Michigan, that don't do dental sleep medicine. And they know that I don't practice dentistry. And if they knew and trusted you, and knew that you wouldn't steal their patients, those dentists who aren't doing dental sleep medicine could be an excellent referral source when they're screening their patients, which they have to do. And we'll talk about that with the resolution from 2017 by the ADA about the screening resolution for obstructive sleep apnea, that and airway sleep-related breathing disorders, that's something they're supposed to be doing. So what a powerful alternative that is. Testing, it's funny. You and I talk so often, Todd, that it's not surprising you finish my sentences or I finish your sentences and stuff like that. We've worked together for a while talking about stuff. And here you were talking about, so should I dispense or do I refer them to a physician for the test? Do I have more directly? Do I have a third party like sleeptest.com or one of those? Do I use a telemed visit or don't I? And the answer is yes. any one of those,
Yep.
maybe a couple of those, but you can't change. If you buy 3 sleep tests, you buy 3 Aries from those folks, then you should be dispensing those. And we're going to talk next time. I don't like to dispense tests because I feel like I'm selling one more thing to them. I like to be removed from that third party. And yet I know people who love dispensing tests, ordering up the interpretation and the diagnosis from a physician and getting that done. And it works great for their offices. So it's not like one way is right and one way is wrong, but you have to pick a way. That's the difference. And you and I talk about this all the time, Todd. It's not this is the right way. It's picking a way and then course correcting if you need to. If you're dispensing and you're always stammering when you're talking to the patient about why you're sending them home with a sleep test, then you should probably use a third party or use your local physician or a little bit of both. I heard a webinar by Ryan from sleeptest.com talking about sending severe patients and challenging patients to their local sleep physician. Now that's from somebody who owns a sleep testing company. And he realizes that his solution is not the solution for all patients. So it's really interesting to think about. You have to have a system in place for how you're going to test. And I can't be a dispenser and a referrer to a third party and a referral to a local physician and use I have to pick and choose. I have to pick those pathways. Now, in closing them into those tests, by the way, we'll spend a lot of time on that next time talking about, the third time, we'll spend a lot of time talking about closing them into the test. What we won't spend much time on is this slide. What are we doing in an exam? I'm hoping you learned that in the sleep course you took. How do we take impressions? Putty, wash, very accurate. How do we take a bite registration? Maybe it's a George gauge. Maybe you're using a pharyngometer. Maybe you're using a phonetic bite. Maybe you're using Matrix Plus if you still have one. There's your neuromuscular bite from an LVI course. All good ways. I'm not going to fight with you about how you take the bite. If you have a philosophy, I'm going to fight with you if you're an agnostic. If you say to yourself, you're not going to have any way of taking the bite. If you're going to just go end to end, I'm going to argue with you because end to end is my maximum protrusion. That's all I got. So you can't go end to end because I could never be comfortable there. And for somebody else, they might have an overbite that might be protruded. So arbitrary is not good, but any of the other ways, I'm not going to fight with you because we know we have adjustable devices, appliances, we can move them around. How do you advance? How often do you advance? Confirmation, whether you're using a pulse oximeter or one of the simple sleep tests that are out there, that's all fine. When you get the follow-up HST, do you send them back to the physician? Do you send the sleeptest.com? Do you dispense the second sleep test and have it interpreted by a physician? There's no wrong answer there, but I have to pick from this box. And I have to say, on the marketing side, here's where I'm getting my patients now. And here's where I plan on getting in the future. From the second box, I have to think about here's how I want to test. Primarily, I want to send to a third party. And I'll use a sleep physician locally occasionally. And then in my treatment regimen, here's what I'm going to use. I'm going to use a software that walks me through an exam. I'm analog, so I'm going to take a putty wash, the highest quality. I'm not going to cut corners and use Silginet or Alginet or something like that. Or maybe you're scanning, so you can scan a full arch. By the way, I could spend a whole hour just talking about the different scanners and some of the different rules and regulations the scanners have when you're doing full arch. Very different than a quadrant for a crown and bridge. Very different. Some scanners hover, some scanners touch, some scanners you just do a quick scan and then fill in the holes. Some you're supposed to get all the data at once. And it's all over the map. And I spend a lot of time with all the different scanning companies. And we have a couple scanners in our office that we use. And then all of the different things in terms of advancing, confirming, follow-up HST, you have to select from these. Am I going to tell a patient when they tell me they're sleeping well, they're not snoring, they get up to pee less, they feel more rested, they're ready for a follow-up HST? There's nothing wrong with that answer. Am I going to have them wear a pulse oximeter for one night or 2 nights? Am I going to use a night owl or sleep image or something like that, or a watch pat 1 to confirm my advancement position? They're in a therapeutic position. There's no wrong answer, but I have to have a system for that. And we'll talk about the kind of systems we need to choose. We'll talk about how we implement those systems. For example, I generally use pulse oximeters. It's not right or wrong, it's just my style. But I still occasionally will use a night owl for a patient that lives far away. so they don't have to keep coming back and picking up or dropping off the night owl. Sorry, picking up or dropping off the pulse oximeter. The night owl has that multiple night, 14 nights over 2 or 3 years capability. So there's advantages and disadvantages to different components of the system. And then from a billing and documentation standpoint, I bill EO 486, and that includes my exam, my impressions, my MOG, my delivery of my device, all of that in one number. But there are billing companies you'll work with who can find a different fee for exams, a different fee for impressions, a different fee for EO 486, a different fee for the MOG. There's nothing wrong with that. And a different fee for the follow-up during titration and advancement and checking on the patient. It's a different philosophy of how you want to do treatment. I happen to get excellent reimbursement from Blue Cross in Michigan. Probably 90% of what I do in Michigan is Blue Cross or Medicare. And I have a very predictable pattern for how I get paid for those. So me billing a singular entity that's a bundled fee like EO 486 makes sense. Some companies will talk to you about, well, when you first get started, maybe you should do cash. I think that's a great idea if you don't want to be too busy. You should do cash, because cash will keep you slow. Because if you tell somebody they got to pay $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 for this device, now we're back into dentistry, convincing somebody to spend a lot of money on something that could have been covered by their medical insurance if you were a participating healthcare provider. And that's a challenge. It's not a wrong answer. I'm just saying that's a steeper hill to climb up than participating with medical insurances. The challenge with participation with medical insurance is a lot of them won't let you because you're a dentist. Most states, the Blue Crosses are pretty good. State to state, it's a little different. 2 or 3 of the other insurances, I think we are actually in network with Medicare, but we're enrolled, but we don't accept their fee schedule. And then we're in network with, I think, 3 or 4 other medical insurances, but most of what I do is Blue Cross anyhow. And the other ones won't let me. But then we play like we're in network. And we accept their fee schedule like we're in network. Makes it easier for my patient, makes it easier for my physician if they're going to refer to me. You have to make all those kinds of decisions and stick with it, or course correct. I love that term, Todd. I'm going to use that over and over again tonight. Do you want to bill that out in-house? It's nothing like dental insurance. It's a pain in the ass. Excuse my French. Most people hate it. It sucks. So we pay $49 and 8% to a third-party billing company. And there's lots of good ones out there. I can name 6 or 8 or 10 of them. So could Todd. And they're all friends of ours. They're all good companies. They all do a nice job. But I'm happy to pay somebody else for those headaches, because they are indeed headaches. And then I have to have a software solution, because Dentrix, EagleSoft, they don't cut it, man. I need an EMR or an EHR. It's not really an EMR or EHR. It's really more of a SOAP note, subjective, objective assessment plan. I need a dental software so that I can communicate with my physicians, communicate with my insurance companies. We routinely get requests for, send me over the SOAP notes, send me over the patient file, send me over the health history. And when we have to communicate with that, I can press a button and magic happens. That's not true either. My daughter, Kimberly, presses a button and magic happens. I don't do that. Honestly, I don't. I come in and touch the patient and shake their hand and put the device in. I don't even put the device in, they do that. But you have to have that capability of doing these different types of things, or you're just going to pull your hair out trying to do stuff. So the 4-box system means I have to understand that I acquire patients, I test patients, I treat patients, and I have to have a billing and documentation system so I can get paid and keep my record straight. And I have to go through all the choices that are in each one of those boxes. And I have to say, well, this one feels comfortable for me or not. And I have to try it. I have to put together a path, a linear path that maybe moves around a little bit. It's not a straight line. It's moving around, comes out the other end. And then I have to test that pathway. And I probably need more than one pathway, because some patients come in from my physician, some patients come in from referral or my own patients. Okay. And I might need 2 testing protocols. I might need a local physician and a third-party tester, or I'm going to dispense. And then over here, treatment. I need a device company that I can trust, that's going to help me earn the trust of physicians, that has precision, accuracy. I'm going to have to have a way that I take impressions predictably, take my bite predictably. I can't be buying different systems every week. As dentists, we become gadget people and we love to buy all these different things. No. One way. If you don't have an answer yet, if you don't have that set up, the George gauge is used by probably 85% of the sleep dentist professionals. Also, about 80% of what we get at Presomnus comes in digitally. So most people use scanners because it's about 50 bucks of material, take an upper and lower putty wash. And it takes 2.5, 2.5, 2.5, 2.5, and a couple minutes to take a bite. So it takes, arguably 12 to 15 minutes to take impressions. And I scan in under 2 minutes upper, scan in under 2 minutes lower. And the extra seconds I picked up in those 2 scans, I can take the bite. So it's 4, it's not 5 minutes. So the time savings to me is huge. I love using a device that delivers easily, first time fit. And so I'm a fan of Evo, not just because I wear this shirt, but because it saves me time. Time is money. If you gave me a device from a different company that was free, I probably wouldn't use it because I save so much time using Evo. And time is really where you spend your money. When you're billing out what you bill out in dental sleep medicine, time is your most precious commodity. So I want us to think about the 4-box system. I want us to think about the different parts, pieces, and components. I can't give you the answer. I can tell you what I do. I can tell you that I get my patients from physicians and local dentists. I can tell you that I spend about half my patients go to local physicians for testing, and half my patients go to a third-party testing company. I can tell you that we scan all of our patients. I use a George gauge for a bite. I add vertical occasionally when I need it, and I add it to my George gauge rather than using airway metrics, but I'm a fan of a 3-dimensional bite. I don't use a pharyngometer. I use a snore test, jaw forward, harder to snore. And I try to find that comfortable position where they have trouble snoring. So I take a kind of a 3-dimensional bite some of the time, but I'm using what I call a poor man's pharyngometer or a poor man's CBCT scan and trying to open the airway. And I treat them with appliances that I think my physicians will look at and trust down the road. Patients will enjoy wearing, have a lot of precision, great efficacy, good compliance. And then I titrate them. And when I get them into that comfortable position and they give me subjective data and information, I let them go home with a pulse oximeter. Occasionally a night owl or something like that, if they're distant. I had a patient in Rhode Island that flew to see me recently, an old friend of mine. So they came back and we treated them. We sent them home with a night owl so I could get the data from Rhode Island back to here when I needed it. And then we send them back for the follow-up HST to the same place, local sleep doc or third party, wherever they got that test. And then we see them on a regular basis. We bill through a third-party company that we pay. That same company has a software that we use for our SOAP notes and EMR. And I pay a monthly fee just like you do. I pay a monthly fee for that software. It's not much. And I pay, I think it is around 49 bucks and 8% or something like that for the billing. And that's just a cost of doing business. Because if I ask Kimmy, who kind of knows how to do that, it would be a burden on us and be more hours and I'd have to pay her. And so this is what bucket do you want to put it in? If you want to piss your team off, make them do medical billing. They'll hate you for that. So it's 4 boxes and it's figuring out what your comfort levels are. If you said, I bought an Aries or I bought 2 Aries or I've got 2 Metabyte Juniors and I want to dispense them, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. Just be really convincing and good when you dispense those and have a physician read them and get your results. That's all good. But stay with that pathway. And if it's not working, course correct. So that's my message for tonight. My message is 4 boxes. What do you put in those boxes? What do you take out of those boxes? What's available in those boxes? And then next time we're going to talk about how do we get our patients today? How do we get our patients tomorrow? And how do we get them in 2 or 3 years? Because it's important that we develop a set of systems for patient acquisition. And then in our final part of the 3-part series that Todd and I talked about doing is we're going to talk about all the scripts and talk tracks, the way that we talk about money and insurance and all of that to help move the patient into testing and into treatment. And
I think that's the one that makes most dentists most nervous because dentists are so fearful of sounding salesy. But sure. I heard, I don't know if it was Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street or something, someone talking about sales, but they were saying, if you actually believe that this treatment could save someone's life, would you be a little pushy? Would you be just a little bit pushy if you knew it was going to save their life?
Yeah, that's great.
Give them 10 more years with their kids.
What would you say to somebody you loved, right?
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody
we actually have a member of Dental Sleep Profits, their sleep coordinator. Her name is Risa. And Risa actually says on the phone, she's got this wonderful Southern grandma accent. She goes, sweetheart, who's going to miss you most when you die? She's dead serious.
Does she work for Cuffy? Does she work for Cuffy?
No, she doesn't work for Cuffy.
Because I could hear Cuffy saying something like that too.
Yeah, I could too. But yeah, that's the reality. She recognizes that, and she helps patients recognize the reality of what we're dealing with. This isn't just an adjunct service that makes 5x what dentistry can on a per hour basis. You are saving lives and marriages, relationships. You are putting families back together. You're giving people extensions on life. It's dental. This is why we dropped almost all of our dental clients and we only focus on sleep. We have 2 clients who we don't do sleep for that we run AdWords for because we love them and they're like, please don't get rid of us. But dental sleep medicine's it. This is, I think in 5 to 7 years, I don't know what your take is, Mark, but in 5 to 7 years, I think well over 50% of dentists will have sleep apnea as a service in their office.
I agree. It's growing rapidly now. So Todd, I noticed that one of our participants, Tashi Hart, wanted to know if there's any company suggestions for EMR. Do you have any that you're comfortable working with? I'm happy to respond if you're not, but do you have somebody you're comfortable working with or companies you like? Or
we've heard a lot of good things about DS3, that 4-pillar billing. You know, they've got a software that helps manage all that. I know that's who Cuffy uses. That's who a number of our clients use. We've heard great things about. What about you?
That's actually who I use. So I didn't want to say, I wanted to be kind of, I would be fine with Pristine Billing and their software. I would be fine with Nearman software and their billing company. I would be fine with any of those. I just happen to have fallen into a DS3 trance a few years ago, and we've had really good success with them in 4-pillar billing. And I've known Guy Atros a long time. He was a student of mine at the Pankey Institute, and I was teaching down there full time when September 11th happened. So talk about bonding with somebody during an unusual time. That's 20 years ago. You know, it's weird to think about. That's 22 years ago, 21 years ago. So I've known Guy a long time, and we teach together at the Pankey Institute, the sleep course with Carsonson and Remmers and all that group that you know. And so that is who we use. But if somebody said, well, I like Nearman, I'm fine with Nearman. Rose is great. John Nearman, I think they've got a great software platform. Randy Curran from Pristine, good friend of mine, great stuff. So I don't have any qualms with any of those. It's just, if you said to me, who do I use? You know, I'd answer that. And so I was glad you opened up with that kind of thing. And then in full disclosure, my daughter actually does some work for 4-pillar billing. That's why I said she could probably actually do the billing, but she does some work on the side for them. She works for me a couple of days a week, a day in the practice when we're there, and then a day setting up and arranging everything and doing everything she does. And then she teaches with me when I lecture, because I can't answer most of the insurance questions. She can. But she actually does some work with them. She does all the, if anybody's gone through their getting Medicare certified in the last couple of years, she's probably done that for them.
Yeah. And if you guys have any other questions, there's a Q&A button down there. You can just type in a question and it'll pop up on our end. So
I got a question here that says, is that a real background behind you or a fake background?
that is real. That is my office.
So is mine. Mine is real too. You can see my bathroom back there. I left the door open. My wife got tired of me doing all the I did so many webinars during COVID, and she got tired of the background looking crappy. So she set me up with these little bottles that are colored and this little colored painting and stuff in the background and had me clean it up. And then I stuck up a Somnus box over here as kind of like a little plug. And stuff, so.
That's what my wife, I mean, watching all the HGTV stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like, hey, you got to turn the spines of your book around so people can't like see all of the different topics of books that you're reading.
Oh, I never thought about that. Yeah, your books are turned around. That's cool.
I like the books I read. There's some good stuff. But
well, if I came over to your house and I was in your office and we're talking, you'd notice my eyes drift, and I would be looking up and down your bookshelf, because I would learn a lot about a person by seeing what books they have on the shelf.
Yep.
So I bought a bunch of books that I would never be able to read and put them on my shelf to impress the shit out of people.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm not seeing any questions come in. Mark, can you confirm, was this able to record on your end?
Yes, it was, and
Okay.
it'll save on my computer and I'll send it over to you.
All right, that sounds great. So I'll get that posted in the Dental Sleep Profits private group and mailed out to all the people who registered and couldn't make it. So
I look forward to next time, Todd. It's always good talking to you. You know, you and I hung out so
Yeah.
much at the last meeting, and we're going to see each other in another week or so down in Orlando. And it's always good. I learned so much from you and Hazel and what you're all doing, and I'm fortunate to be working with you. I feel very, very fortunate for the kind of leads we're getting, the numbers we're generating. So it's exciting stuff. And I'm not trying to be too salesy on this, but it's cool. It's cool what you're able to do, and I'm fortunate to be a recipient of it. So thanks so much.
What both of us get to do is really, really fun.
Yeah, it is. It is. Wait a minute, I see a Q&A, something coming. How hard is it to get a network with Blue Cross Blue Shield today? It was impossible years ago. So Jeff, I would say that it depends on where you are, and it depends on what insurance, what billing company you're working with. It's incumbent on your biller to get you in network with those insurances and get you, shoot, I'm gonna use the word, not certified,
Credential.
Credential, thank you. I knew it was a C word, credential with them. My daughter, again, she knows how to do this kind of stuff because of her line of work, but I teach at the University of Detroit Mercy School of Dentistry. I started a sleep medicine program down there. And so she uses Rose. So yeah, so I would thank you. So she uses Nearman. So I would reach out to Nearman and say, hey, and what state are you in, Jeff? Type that in there too. That's important because certain states are easier and harder, and I know a few of them. But they can get you credentialed. She got the university credentialed very quickly. It sometimes can take 2 or 3 months. Medicare used to take 3 or 4 months. Now they're doing it very quickly because of COVID and all that kind of stuff. But and they're waiving a lot of the fees. That's going to start to come back. You're in Illinois, Medicare certified, high five. That's great. So yeah, I would reach out to Rose, but I got to warn you, Blue Cross of Illinois is a real pistol. I know that for sure. Blue Cross of Illinois is a real pistol. How can I get information for sleep course CBD? Sue, thank you for asking. Sue Shoha, tell me, is there any relation to Dominic Shoha? That's interesting because that's an endodontist who's got great fame around the metropolitan area of Detroit. So I do lecture occasionally with an all-day or day and a half sleep course at dental school. But right now I teach the D3s. I get about 10 hours with them. And then I have the ortho residents, first year and second year residents. I have both of them in lecture 1 day a month, and then half of them in clinic the other time. So your father-in-law is Dominic Shoa. That's crazy. That's awesome. And his oldest son is also in this. What a small world it is, Sue. Good to sort of unofficially meet you. You've got my email on the screen, Sue, so feel free to reach out to me. And I can tell you where else I'm lecturing. I know I'm doing a couple of lectures at the Chicago Midwinter meeting coming up. This meeting in Orlando, this meeting in Tampa or Clearwater, where Todd's speaking and I'm speaking, is a great meeting to go to. Not an entry-level beginners meeting, but not too advanced either. It's kind of that a little bit of everything. There's such a variety of stuff at that meeting. There's something for everybody. And that's in Clearwater. That's coming up like the 11th
National
12th.
North American Dental Sleep Medicine Symposium.
Right, North American Dental Sleep Medicine Symposium. That's coming right up, so that's good. Let me just check the chat box, Q&A. I can get that wired off. That's good. Thanks so much. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Mel. Cool. Looking forward to the next couple webinars. All right. Peace. Yeah. Everybody's got my email. Todd, thanks again. I'll see you in a week. Might have a beer or two together. Who knows?
There we go. We'll talk to you soon, Mark. We'll see you.
All right. Thanks, Todd.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.